welcome to Agile Always by Officially Fenner. Rudy and I are here today. We have an exciting topic. We're going to talk about kind of the power of 4 simple shifts for a healthier you in 2025. We're helping everyone to thrive. Thriving in 25 is a big title everybody's using, but they'll use it for January and February. We're going to use it all year long. We want you to thrive.
We're talking about taking back 2025.
We want you to thrive the entire year and beyond. But today we're excited because we have a guest with us, Ryan Atkins. We're going to tell you a little bit more about her in just a few moments. But we do know that this time of the year can feel like a fresh start for so many of us. And it's a time when we look back on our habits and think about how we can feel and be our best in the months ahead. So today we're here to talk about top things you can focus on for a healthier lifestyle. And this is not from a place of judgment, but from a place of empowerment. So this is what you are choosing to do. It's not what someone is saying, here's what you should do. I mean, we are saying kind of here things you can do to help yourself, but we want you to feel like this is something that you can take on and you're doing it for you. So this episode is about finding ways to fuel your body and feel great. So, as I mentioned, we're thrilled to have Ryan Atkins with us. She is a family friend. She and our daughter worked together some time ago, and she has been so gracious to join us today. She is certified in holistic nutrition and nutritional health coaching. And you became certified in holistic this area through AFPA, American Fitness Professionals and Associates, Ryan, back in 2020, you said? And you've been doing this working as a nutritional health coach over the last several years. So tell us, how did you get into this? What made you go down this path?
So I feel like there were a few paths that led me to, a certain fork in the road. One path was I was always that girl on a diet. I was never too big, but always a little chubby and always trying to lose weight. I did get, Nordstrom was very stressful for me at one point, and I did gain a lot of weight, and I guess I could just never lose the weight. I did all the things that, people on Instagram or the fitness community said to do, and it wasn't working for me. And it was really disheartening for, me to not be able to improve myself. And then, so that was one path. And then another path was that my her digestion stopped working in her early 30s.
Wow.
She lost a whole bunch of weight really fast, a whole bunch of hair. And so she started going to the doctors, and nobody knew what was wrong with her. They just told her that her digestive tract stopped working. She saw 13 different specialists. She even went to Johns Hopkins University, and nobody could figure out why her digestive tract stopped working. But essentially, she could not have bowel movements without medication. Wow. And they told her that she would have to have medication for the rest of her life to just even have a bowel movement. And so as I got older, closer to my 30s, I started experiencing digestive issues. And I was afraid, that I was going to end up like my mom and not be able to have bowel movements anymore without medication. And so this was going on. And then right around, it was around, I want to say 2016. No, it's probably the year before. My husband's father's cancer came back, and he had been doing so well for so long, and it came back with vengeance. And within like 6 months, we lost him. And during that time, that's when me and my husband really started digging into health and wellness. Like, what is causing cancer? Why is everybody getting cancer? Why is it at an all-time high every single year? It just gets worse. And so that's when we started digging into the foods that we're eating, the things that we're putting on our body or in our body. I think that's when we gave up fast food. That's when we cut back on pharmaceutical drugs. My husband stopped smoking cold turkey. I was never a smoker, and I never liked that he was, but gave it up. Cold turkey. Yeah. We stopped eating out at fast food restaurants. So we started making these changes, and that's when I really started digging in to how to support my health. And I believe it was at the end of 2017 that I was like, instead of trying to focus on losing weight, which has always been my goal, I was like, maybe I need to shift things to focus on being healthy instead. And my thought was, if I'm healthy, I'll most likely be at a healthier weight as well. So that's when I started really digging into nutrition, and I made a couple of diet changes, and immediately saw results within a month. Just diet change. I wasn't even working out or nothing.
Mm,
A month in, I lost 10 pounds. I hadn't been able to lose, I think the year before, I lost 6 pounds in 6 months.
mm.
So 10 pounds in 1 month, my energy levels, my digestive issues had gone away. I felt amazing and I became obsessed. Obsessed. Anything I could read or watch or listen to about nutrition, I did for like the next 3 or 4 years. That's all that's all I focused on. And so I felt amazing. I ended up losing like 50 pounds. All my digestive issues went away. My energy levels, like I felt like a kid again. I felt like I could run around and hang out with the kids. I felt amazing. And so I really wanted to share this. I want
Yeah.
other people to feel the way that I felt after just just changing my diet. That's all I did was change my diet.
I love that story. I'm sorry for your father-in-law's loss and all that, but I'm just amazed. I just listened to what you're saying, and it really resonates with with us, I think, and I think for a lot of other people too. Just knowing those kinds of things, and when you had those issues, you just started digging to find out what kinds of things you could change to make a difference. You did it, and now you're here to share it with everyone else. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking out loud as I'm talking to you, actually, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So first of all, my head's exploding, right? Because it's so much that just happened here. Let me go back and just touch a couple things that you hit that just kind of blew me away. So let me ask you this. I think from a father, brother, husband, boyfriend, son perspective,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think caused you to feel so, it almost sound like, I want to be careful, mildly obsessed with the diet thing? Why did people make you feel like that back at the beginning?
Um, Before I got into nutrition,
Yeah, so you were talked about, that's one of the things that you were always
mm,
on a diet. So I think
yes,
I think there's things that we are unaware of that we do in our
yes,
behavior that
in our
takes you guys to those
society.
places. Yes.
Yes. I feel like I grew up in the 90s. Kelly's only a few years older than me, so
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she can relate, and I'm sure that you guys can relate from this. But the 90s was skinny, skinny
Yeah,
women. That's
right.
all we
Mm-hmm.
saw.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
women, we've been told for so long that we had to be skinny, or we weren't pretty if we weren't skinny.
Mm.
It's funny seeing like memes from the early 2000s of that show American's Next Top Model with Tyra Banks being like, "Oh, you're overweight or you're a plus size model," and the girl
Wow.
was like skinnier than me. So I'm like, this is where I grew up. This is what I grew up seeing, and I feel like probably my mother's generation, you guys' generation,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
you guys probably had the start of that, and we got the end of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that was that. A
And,
lot of
and I
that.
and I
Yeah.
do think, if I'm thinking along those lines, there was so much messaging that I think we were oblivious to, that we
Hmm.
don't even know. We were burning down villages and never even noticed a small fire. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and and now, thank goodness, there's been more communication where women have become bolder about saying that's
Hmm.
jacked up. Okay, and catching us in that insanity. I was just curious about that. The other thing was this: you said when you first started to make those changes, the first changes that you made out of the gate nutritionally. Do you remember what
Hmm.
any of those were?
So at first I gave up gluten.
Mm.
Well, I tried to give up as much processed food, but it's kind of hard to do.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I gave up gluten at first because I had a feeling that my mom might be sensitive with all of her issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really like dive deep in. I just gave up gluten. And after a month of giving it up, I went to a friend's house for dinner and she had Hawaiian rolls. I couldn't pass up on a Hawaiian roll.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I had one and it wrecked my stomach to the point where I had to leave the dinner early. I had to go home with like the most upset stomach
Mm-hmm.
ever. Like, I don't want to go into too much details of it, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah. Right.
I was like, no, I can't be in public if this is what gluten does to me.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
waited a week and then I tried it again and it did it again. So I knew like I must have some sensitivity to it. My body does not like processing this, but I still didn't feel that great just giving up gluten. So then the next month I made a few more changes to my diet and that's when it really set off for me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the reason that caught my ear is I think a lot of, just right out of the gate that you've said, a lot of what you are saying is surrounded by grace. And the way you just described, just taking a single item and focusing on that item, that's allowing yourself to enter into this new this off ramp, if you will, but with grace, because
Mhm.
we can focus on one thing and we can take that
Right.
one thing out, and just what you described, it's a tremendous impact that that one thing has.
Right.
That's pretty fascinating. Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah. So that is, I mean, the gluten-free diet. A lot of people are sensitive to gluten, and they find out these things later. And it's so interesting because you talk about what happened in our generation. I don't remember as much of that. The fat shaming, skinny thing may have started then, but when you think about the food then didn't seem to be the same as the food now. So
100% facts.
yeah, and I feel like food has changed. I hate to say it, but I think
No, it's
our food,
true.
yeah,
A lot of the
yeah,
food that you see today wasn't even
right,
around 100 years ago,
yeah,
and a lot of the
yeah,
chemicals within our foods weren't even around 70 years ago.
right. So
So,
yeah.
how are our bodies able to process this stuff it's never been exposed to before?
Right, exactly. It's probably not supposed to process it either.
Mhm.
So that kind of takes us to some of the things, the four things I think that you were talking about that you kind of focus on. And one thing was the unprocessed food diet. So
Yes.
can you tell us about that a little bit? How can we even shift to that? What does that mean?
Yes, so the American diet today, which a lot of people call the SAD diet, the standard American diet, um, it is mainly processed foods. And I think statistically, Americans their diet consists 60% of processed foods. So we're not even eating that much real foods. We're eating primarily fake man made foods that are full of sugar and sometimes these ingredients that I don't even know what they are or know how to pronounce them. And yet I'm eating them and putting them into my body. These are the things that are really causing issues for our health. And when things are processed, they lose a lot of the nutrients that are naturally, originally within them. So when we process foods, we lose those nutrients. So if our diet's primarily processed foods, we're not really nourishing our body with the nutrients it needs to function optimally. So having a diet that focuses primarily on whole, unprocessed foods, that's going to
Right.
consist of fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, animal products, um, healthy fats, those foods that don't really have a nutritional label on them. They don't tell you what's inside of them because there's nothing else. It's unprocessed. I love to say, think about the food that God made us on the earth.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
He made these foods for a reason.
Right.
Food is our medicine. It helps. Food is either energy or medicine. That's what it is. That's the main purpose of that we eat food. And so when we start digging into the foods that man created, those are
Right.
the foods that are really harming us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can say, because it's not possible to give it up 100%. I mean, you can try.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
little hard, but we have to live a little. So I always say doing like an 80-20 rule where 80% of the time you're primarily eating whole foods, fruits, vegetables, meats, healthy fats. And then every once in a while, we have to live a little. We can go out, have a little something, little processed foods. It's not the primary base of our diet, but it's okay to have. And I hate to say in moderation because I feel like we've used that too much, that
Yeah.
people think in moderation means all the time.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
every once in a while, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
But trying to focus primarily on whole foods should be the baseline to any diet that's out there.
Yeah, and one thing you said that I know I've heard, and that was things you can't pronounce. So when you have canned
Hmm.
goods and boxed things, and what they tell you, what I've heard is, when you're shopping in the grocery store, make sure you're shopping the perimeter more,
Yes.
and so you'll
Yes.
find those fresh items. You'll find fewer processed items there, without words I can't even pronounce. So yeah, but
Right.
look for those in the packaging, right?
And those chemicals weren't around 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Like look
exactly.
at our grandparents and how they lived up to 90s to 100. They're saying now that the newer generation is not going to outlive their parents.
Mm.
How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
We're seeing it because there's a story almost every day about the wider number of young people diagnosed with different diseases and different
Yes.
ailments. So that
And
is
then
coming to
diseases are
fruition.
getting younger and younger.
Yeah, yeah. You said something too. Um, well, you said a lot that caught my attention. I wrote down so many things. Going like, okay, wait, whoa, slow down, buddy, slow down. Um, I, I, I am. I was walking through in my mind when you mentioned the processed food, and
Hmm.
I believe part of you're actually so much that you're saying is confirming what my heart has said. I don't even know if I've articulated it in some cases before because in my mind, if I ever have the time, I want to write a book about nutrition, and it would be entitled "The Cost of Convenience,"
Mm.
because
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
believe
Mm-hmm.
that ultimately we have allowed our lives to be overtaken by activity, and the activity
Hmm.
has overtaken time for preparation for anything. So everything has to be instantly ready. And when that comes
Yes.
to
And
food,
fast.
yes, and when that
Mm-hmm.
comes to
Yeah.
food, the only way that happens is through a drive-through or a microwave. And all of those
Yep.
things require some level of processing. And I think what
Hmm.
you're saying is right. I'm sorry, I can't remember if it was before we actually turned the recording on or not. You mentioned, um, uh, oh, you said something that just blew my mind. That tied back to the convenience. It was, oh, the grace,
Yeah.
because I think it is if we meet people where they are, just like you do. Many of
Hmm.
us, you're right. We that 80-20 deal. You said 60%. I think there were some people like me that we were existing on 80% processed food, easy. Actually,
Hmm.
and honestly, it
Hmm.
might
Mm-hmm.
even go higher. Uh, and
Oh, I
and
believe it.
and you're right to come from to move from 80% to anything that's better is gonna take some work, but it really takes planning.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and, and that
Mm-hmm.
that's a question that I don't. I mean, with this, let me just ask. So, for unprocessed food, I don't mean to stop you, Robin, with
That's
your
okay.
questions,
You
but
go right ahead.
with
Mm-hmm.
with the unprocessed. So, if I'm to move from unprocessed to processed, what ideas or what encouragement would you give us for doing that? Because for some of us, we are so microwave driven. We don't have. There's some refrigerators with not one fresh thing in it, and we're trying to figure
Hmm.
out how do we move into that space.
Right. Well, I always tell when I coach people, I usually give them I call it a healthy meal. It shows like how your half your plate should be primarily vegetables, and then you want to include healthy fats and a protein in every meal. And then it has a food list on there. And I usually tell them to go through and highlight their favorite foods.
Mm,
So for you guys, make a list of some of your favorite fruits and vegetables that you know you like and you know that you're going to eat. And then when you're trying to make up some meals, look at those first. How can I include a fruit or how can I include a vegetable and a meat and a healthy fat? That's my dinner right there. And it's going to take some time. Like, I felt like for me, before changing my diet, I was not a huge veggie eater. I ate green beans and corn and potatoes. I think that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
American of me.
Yeah. Right.
And that was about it.
mhm,
Yeah.
Um, I did not like a lot of vegetables. I would not eat. I would be that person who would pick them all out.
mm.
I'll pick all the onions out or whatever it was. And then as I changed my diet, my palate started to change and I would become
Yes.
curious. Literally,
Yes.
I would be at someone's house and he was cutting onions and I've never in my life had liked onions before. And I
Yeah.
became curious. I was like, you know what? I kind of want to try them. And ever
Yeah.
since then, I love onions and I eat them all the time. So I noticed a change in my palate once I started to try to include more whole foods and less processed foods because with the processed foods, they're also highly sugary
Yeah.
and that dilutes our palates to where fruit and vegetables don't even taste good anymore to us because they're not as sweet as the processed food that we're eating. So you kind of have to do that switch over, and it kind of does take time. But what I like to do for me that makes it easier is I'm either meal prepping. I love meal prepping, especially my lunches for work, or I'll do a meal prep. I used to have a name for it, but it's not quite 100% making the entire meal, but I'll prep the ingredients for things. So, like
Right.
maybe I'll have stuff for a salad, all the stuff's chopped up and in containers. And then all I have to do is just grab a bowl, grab some lettuce, grab things I've already chopped up, grab the chicken I already cooked, and throw it in. So having some things like chicken or some veggies already pre-cooked and just chilling in your fridge can sometimes be a quick, easy way to,
Oh my
let me
gosh.
just whip out dinner. Let me just whip out
Yeah.
a lunch real quick. There's already there's already chicken in the fridge. I can
That's a,
just pull it out. So sometimes picking a day and just making a whole bunch of something
that's a
can
great
help
idea.
alleviate.
I saw someone on social media one day, and they had a lot of kids. I think maybe 10 or 12 kids, and they had this whole like a commercial refrigerator drawer or something, but they had everything prepped like that, and they could
Right.
easily make all of the food. That's a great idea. I really want to try that. I haven't gotten to that point
It
where I've
does
prepped
take
everything
time.
yet,
You have
but
to
yeah.
schedule that.
But yeah, and I guess I've gotten to the point where I'm not big on cook. I'll make a salad every night just because I don't have to cook it. I don't have to think about it ahead of time, and I don't have to thaw anything out. So there's that.
But that's
yeah.
tremendous value in what
Yeah.
you're saying, Ryan, because I'm telling you, I will eat absolutely perfect. But if my schedule gets into a jam, I will reach into somebody else's freezer, grab one of their frozen White Castle burgers out of the freezer, and I will eat it like it is the greatest burger in the world. And that is, I will revert back to those habits if I don't have the path. And I tell Robin every now and then, Robin can eat a leaf and she'll say, "Oh, that was wonderful," and I'm looking at her like, what in the world? I am a very active person, and I eat. I need to have calories in. It just doesn't work. And so I have to plan what that is going to be because it will go south in a second. You made such a good point earlier. To live a little and go back to those things. I cannot
Right.
have a burger for 6 months, but at 6 months and one day, if you take me past the right burger place and it's got the right quality of beef for me, I'm all in and I'm going to enjoy it. And I will revert back to those habits if I don't plan and if I don't
Right.
put the right things in every day. You said something too. I wanted to, gosh, you
I want to say
mentioned,
something real quick.
yes.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you're saying right now. I think one thing that people do when they are trying new habits or trying new diets is they'll try really, really hard and be 100% all week long. And then something comes up and they eat a burger
Mm,
and then they feel like they failed. And then they just, oh, I ruined it.
well,
I'm
that's
quitting.
good.
I'm not going to keep doing this. What I like to say is you can try again tomorrow.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
that's
good.
so
So
good.
it's
Yeah,
okay. It's okay that today your schedule, this happened, that happened, and you couldn't do what you wanted to do, and you didn't get to eat the foods that you wanted to eat.
Yep.
And this is the only option. It's okay. You have tomorrow. You can just do better tomorrow.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I say about so much. Tomorrow is another day to get it right. So yeah,
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
absolutely right. Yeah,
You mentioned sugar earlier, and
Hmm.
I am I don't know how to connect these things to. I used to. I there was a time in my life where I thought a lot of things were oriented to regions, oriented to race, oriented to gender, and the
Hmm.
more I grow, the more I find out actually no, that's a problem for a lot bigger audience than you're trying to say. So
Hmm.
I spent I think most of my adult male life as a pre-diabetic. My glucose was always 3 digits. It just never came
Hmm.
below it, and I learned to live with that, and it was kind of ridiculous to live with it when I really think about it. Like, but that was dumb. But anyway, um, I started to change or at least think about changing taste, and we went to a plant based restaurant,
Hmm.
and it was one of the honestly from where I was nutritionally at the time, it was like having a plate of wood, and it was I was almost like, oh my gosh, this is a fail. This is going to be disastrous. But what he taught me, one of the guys that was there, he taught me something, and I pulled it up real quick on the internet because it's scientifically supported. Taste bud cells undergo continual turnover even through adulthood, and their average lifespan has been estimated as approximately 10 days. In that time, you can actually retrain your
Hmm.
taste buds to crave less refined foods and to really appreciate the vivacity of plant-based foods. Now, I said that to say every day at 2 o'clock, I am mocked by people at work because I have a cup and a third of grapes and blueberries.
Aw.
And you would think I am eating the most delicious, scrumptious food of all time. My taste have been, it has beat down the sugar demand so much until that is so bursting with flavor. And what I do is
Right.
as the seasons change and the fruit isn't as good, I'll take dried blueberries and mix them in as well. So that gives my blueberries an extra little kick, and everything
Mm-hmm.
tastes. But that's just to say, there are people who know me who listen to me say things like that and say, my gosh, he's an alien. That's not the same guy. He is not. That is not. But it's understanding that and being patient, the grace that you mentioned, and then knowing the science behind things like that and giving myself a chance to change.
Hmm.
And it just dramatically changed all that to a place that if it's something really sweet now, if I had a Coca-Cola now, I would taste it and you'd see my face get a little weird because it's like the sugar
Hmm.
is in the forehead. It's like a baseball bat in the head.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, that
Amazing.
that kind of leads us into keeping the blood sugar balance, and that was another
Yes.
one of your principles. So, tell us, like, I guess you kind of started a little bit about it, but tell us what you recommend. What do you say about doing that?
Yes. So blood sugar is actually my favorite topic. I
Yeah.
love
Okay.
talking about blood sugar.
Hmm.
Anytime I hear anybody say, "Oh, I have prediabetes" or "I have diabetes," I'm like, "Please come and see me."
Mm,
I love talking about this. We can literally have a whole podcast just talking about blood sugar, but it is the baseline to our health and our everyday health. So I love it because it is so simple to control, but we are not taught anything about blood sugar. Pretty much the only time you ever hear about blood sugar is you go to the doctor, they check your blood, and they're like, "Oh, your blood sugar levels are a little too high. You're
mm,
pre-diabetic or you're diabetic." And they don't really tell you, ways to keep it balanced with the way that you eat. If it's too high, they just prescribe you, metformin or something.
yes.
So they don't like and with blood sugar, you can change your blood sugar every time you eat. Every meal, you can change your blood sugar. And I feel like the baseline to optimal health. If you could be doing all the other things, but if your blood sugar is not where it should be, it's still going to create inflammation in your body. It's
Mm,
still going to create free radicals in your body, and it's still going to put you in a fat storing zone rather than a fat burning zone. And I find like a lot of people who are trying to lose weight, I think that's a big topic for a lot of people is weight loss. Um, and and now we have these shots and pills that are making people lose weight really fast, and I don't think it's quite the healthiest sometimes, but we're not taught that if your blood sugar is balanced, that you will have an easier time losing weight. And I think that's the issue for a lot of people who are trying to lose weight. They don't know that they have to have their blood sugar in balance. And if it's not, they physically cannot lose weight when your blood sugar is out of balance. But it's so important to like our energy level throughout the day. Have you guys ever 4 o'clock in the afternoon felt like you needed a nap? It's
Oh yeah,
crash time.
yeah, yeah,
That's blood
exactly.
sugar.
Right. So let
Or you
go
yeah,
on. I'm
keep
sorry.
going.
I was going to ask you this question. You talked about being able to change it every time you eat. Is it by
Mhm.
counting like the grams of sugar you take in a meal, or how do you do that when you mention changing it whenever you
Yes.
eat?
Okay, so the food that we blood sugar is from what we eat, of course. We eat primarily protein, fat, and carbs. That's what all of our food is made out of. Protein and fat do not affect our blood sugar at all. Fat has been shown to actually lower blood sugar, but carbs are the only thing that can affect our blood sugar. And I like to say it this way because usually people, when they think about blood sugar, they think about sugar and they think about sweets and treats. When any carb can actually spike your blood sugar. So a carb is going to be fruit, vegetables, anything made out of grains. Those are all carbs. Every single carb digests into sugar in our body. So even eating something healthy like a banana could still spike your blood sugar if you don't know how to keep it balanced. The best way to balance carbs is to eat it with protein and fat. I always say never eat a carb by itself. Make sure there's always protein and fat in there to help keep it balanced. And this is because protein and fat take longer for our body to break down. This is because our body uses more of it. So it slows down the breakdown of carbs into sugar and it doesn't get dumped all into our bloodstream at the same time. So always make sure that's like my number one rule. I have a whole bunch of hacks for blood sugar. But my number one is always make sure there's protein and fat when you eat carbs.
I
So like
never,
if you're
I was gonna
having,
say, I
you
never
never heard
heard
of
that
that?
before. I never heard that before, but that's really great to know. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
So like you go to Olive Garden and you get a pasta and this bowl is ginormous. It's a huge
Yeah.
bowl of pasta. That is going to cause a huge blood sugar spike. But you could still eat pasta if you knew how to hack it right for your blood sugar. So if you were to eat a salad before your pasta, oh, fun fact, fiber, which is going to be in most vegetables and fruit, block the absorption of sugar. So if you were to eat something, which there are these new studies that have been coming out this past year on the order in which we eat food. If you eat your carbs and your sugary foods first, they're going to break down. They're going to get absorbed into your bloodstream first. If you eat the protein or vegetables first, then the carb last. That carb doesn't get all, it breaks down slower and does all that sugar doesn't get dumped into our bloodstream. So if you wanted pasta or you wanted pizza for dinner, and if you had a salad before dinner, that's going to be fiber and vegetables, and then ate your pizza or your pasta second, and you had a much smaller portion, you're not going to create such a imbalance in your blood sugar levels that way.
Wow, I never heard that.
Wait a minute.
I never heard it before.
No, we gotta write this down. So
wait,
hold on.
wait. Okay, wait. I got to tell you one thing. Wait, I got to tell you one thing. We're taking notes for ourselves like right now. Okay, you got to see these pieces of paper we have.
So
this
is
so much good information. Oh my gosh.
What did you guys
what to eat first?
So
yeah,
Ryan, give me that sequence one more time.
Yes, the sequence. So in the studies, they show that eating fiber or vegetables, which is where you get your fiber from, eating fiber first, protein second, and then carbs last, has a smaller glucose spike than eating carbs first, then protein and fiber. They've even combined some things in the studies. So they've done like you eat your protein and fiber together, and then you eat your carb last, still showed a lower glucose spike. So eating the carb first just creates that huge glucose spike, but then eating the fiber and the protein first reduces that glucose spike.
Now, for the slow people in the class, I want to really be careful. When you say fiber, tell me specifically what are you thinking when you say fiber?
So fibrous foods are going to be anything green, leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, so broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, any of those. Fruit, like berries, are also very high in fiber. Avocados are great fiber sources. Nuts and seeds, things like flaxseed or chia seeds, those are also great fiber sources. Artichoke, you can look through some processed foods like pasta or breads. Sometimes they add back in fiber, or you can buy fiber supplements. I don't really recommend fiber supplements because I think they're nasty. So I just try to get them from food. They're gross. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I get it. Totally. Yeah.
So the crazy part about what you're saying, Ryan, and my mind is blown now because this is the sequence that I eat. But the reason I did it, I had no idea what you just said. I ate it because I noticed I ate less and fewer of the carbs if I was sort of kind of
everything
full
else
from the salad and everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did it to eat less of the and so that is interesting because my glucose, I've been the thing about this is going to sound so strange when I say it. I say all the time, when you're diagnosed with a disease like cancer, you become a member of the Health and Wellness Witness Protection Program. And as a result, they are scanning, testing, checking, and it never ends. So I have data and readouts at a highly more available rate than the average person. I've been able to monitor closely glucose through blood tests, through their monitoring for almost 2 years now, where my glucose was at one time 120, 115, 110, 115. It now, the last my blood test just a week or so ago, it was 83.
Yes.
It was 83 from 80. It had been 80. And so it stays in those areas, and that is a lot. I'm saying that to confirm for a fact that what you're saying is an absolute fact. And if anybody is listening and is questioning it, stop. You're wasting your time, because I have the results from what you described without even knowing the reasons that you described it for. I've done that, and I have absolutely seen those results. And I believe that 83 glucose has triggered a number of other positive effects on my health and everything about my being.
I love that. I mean, I love going into like how our blood sugar works, the process of it, and telling people these things, because I mean, most people don't know, but when I explain it to them, it's like mind blowing a little bit that this is the process. This is why my body's storing fat this way. And so I just love talking about blood sugar. Like, I can keep going if you want me to.
Wow.
Well, you know what? We'll dive into that perhaps again, because there is so much to.
But wait, I did have one thing.
Okay.
So before you leave this topic, let me just ask this: what do you find is the thing that most of us, beyond what we've already said, is there anything else that most of us, you find, don't know
About
this glucose process, about sugar and processing in our bodies?
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of things that most people don't know about sugar and how it affects our body. Um, with our glucose levels, we have that range that our body has to be in at all times. And if we are outside that range, sugar is literally toxic to our bodies, and our body turns off other processes to process that sugar away somewhere else in our body to keep us safe. So most people don't know how toxic sugar is. There is no need for sugar, like granulated sugar. There's no need for sugar in our diet whatsoever. We get enough sugar from fruits and vegetables that we should not be eating so much sugar. And one thing that I think nobody knows, not a lot of people know, and this one's a big one, is that when we consume sugar and we create these blood sugar spikes, it turns off our immune system for up to 5 hours.
Ew.
So a lot of people say that, the fall, we always call the fall flu season, but a lot of health professionals call the fall sugar season, where we have Halloween, we have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas.
Yeah.
We have lots of sweet treats this time of year. This is the time of year we get more sick.
Wow. I'd never heard that. This is amazing.
And then one final thing that I love telling people, and I kind of mentioned weight loss a little bit, but when we have unbalanced blood sugar and we have high blood sugar over that healthy range, our body literally turns our ability to burn fat off when we have high sugar in our blood. So if you are trying to lose weight, but you are constantly spiking your blood sugar, that ability gets turned off. And that's all based on our blood sugar levels.
Wow.
Even our energy, our brains function. Our brains are very sensitive to our blood sugar levels. So when we have too low of blood sugar levels, that's usually when we become hangry, irritable, mood swingy. We can't focus or concentrate on our work. So it affects a lot of different aspects of our health.
And then what people do is grab the closest thing to them, which is something that's processed and probably has sugar in it. They're hangry and it's like, just give me something. Yeah. So that's not helping. So.
And what makes us hangry when we have low blood sugar, our body releases a hormone known as cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So when you're stressed, your cortisol levels rise. If you have unbalanced blood sugar, your cortisol levels rise. So you're unintentionally raising your stress levels in your body. And cortisol, one of its jobs is it makes us crave sugar and carbs.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Just one more. Okay. So
yeah.
So one thing I just realized that I'm hoping for confirmation or clarification from you. I remember I mentioned to someone recently about eating fruit, and I said, you need to eat more grapes. And their response was, well, I'm worried about the sugar in grapes. And I said, nah, hang on a second. Help us understand that are there occurrences where we have so much fruit until it negatively affects that glucose? Just that whole thing. Tell me a little bit about that. I'm sorry.
Yes. So, I mean, too much of anything could be harmful
This
to
is a
us.
good point.
But I recently listened to a podcast with this doctor. Her name's oh man, Stacy Means, I believe.
Mhm.
And she was the one who created the continuous glucose monitor called Levels, which is for people who don't have diabetes. They just are curious about their glucose.
Mhm.
And she said that the number one surprising food that spikes people's blood sugar is grapes.
Mm.
And that's because, I mean, it does have a lot of sugar in it. And usually do eat grapes by themselves for the most part. So fruit and vegetables can still cause blood sugar spikes if we don't pair them with protein and fat. But there are some fruits and vegetables that are lower on the glycemic level and have more fiber. So anything green is usually pretty low in sugar and higher in fiber. So I say greens free, eat green as much as you want. And then berries. So strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries. Those are all very low actually on the glucose level, on their sugar levels, and they're high in fiber. So that fiber helps to block the sugar from the fruit. The same with citrus. So when you're eating fruit in its whole state, you're also getting that fiber, which is going to block some of the sugar. When we extract like orange juice. They extracted the fruit juice, so there's no more fiber anymore. That's going to cause an even bigger glucose spike
Mm.
because we're missing the rest of the fruit, which was properly made, a way to support our health. But you could still eat, all of it. I would say, add some nuts with it, and then it wouldn't spike your blood sugar as bad. And then fruit is stored a little bit differently in our body than regular glucose. That's why a lot of animals eat a lot of fruit in the winter because sometimes it can be stored straight as fats if we do consume too much of it. But I mean, fruit is the best option. Like, you want something sweet, eat some fruit.
Right, right.
You're going to get other nutrients and phytonutrients from fruit.
Fruit over cookies.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, cookies actually are kind of a weakness I have a little bit, just because they're so easy to kind of just pick up. It's not like a slice of cake or something like that. So,
well, I could tell you how to eat a cookie and it not spike your blood sugar.
Okay, go.
So that order I was talking about earlier about eating protein and fat first before your carbs, you can do this with your sweets. I say save them for dessert. Right. So if you had a meal and your meal had protein and fat and fiber, and then after that meal you ate a cookie or some M&Ms, it's not going to create such a big glucose spike as it would if you just ate them on an empty stomach as a snack.
Got it. Okay. That's good. That's good to know. I try to be careful.
So you still have your treats. Yeah.
Yes.
Just save them.
Yeah. Try to be careful with them, but it's good to know I can be even more careful. So that's good. Okay. All right. So I know there were two other parts of this piece that we were hoping to touch on before we let you go. This is fantastic, by the way. I'm sitting here, like I said, we're taking notes. So if we're quiet for a moment, it's because we're writing things down, not because we can't think of what to say next. But
no, that's fine.
But this is such excellent information. Two other things that you mentioned that are part of your top four. They're different from the foods. You talked about incorporating daily movement. Now that's right up kind of like Rudy's alley and mine too, actually. But tell us what your recommendations are about that.
So one, we were just talking about. Sorry, hey baby. Sorry about that. Okay. We were talking about blood sugar. So our muscles use the most of our blood sugar. So incorporating daily movement helps to keep our blood sugar more balanced. Also, when we have more muscle, we can utilize sugar much easier and better than people with less muscle. So just getting in some kind of movement is going to be great for your blood sugar. Also, hey, baby bear. Sorry, you guys.
Oh, no, that's okay. We've got little ones too, so it's just fine.
Give me a few more minutes, okay? Here, there's gummies on the table. Go get them. Go get those gummies. I'll open them for you. Okay. So including daily movement, and what I like to say, if we don't use it, we lose it. And we need to be able to move. And this is why I love working out today, is so that in the future, I can still be able to sit up off of a chair or off of a toilet or be able to pick up my grandkids. But you don't have to, for optimal health, you don't have to be doing weightlifting or going to the gym, including, start small, going for a walk every single day. I love walking, and I think walking is very underrated. Walk has tremendous health benefits. So going for a 20 to 30-minute walk every day can have great health improvements, if that's the only thing you even did. So I say it doesn't matter what kind of movement you do, just move somehow every day.
Good. Good. Okay. That walking is easy. It doesn't require any equipment. Just need
Mm-mm.
very good shoes
and I always say start small.
Yeah. Yeah.
When after having a baby, I wanted to get back into working out, but I did not have that motivation to do so. And so I just started with like 20-minute walks in the morning. And then it eventually led to longer walks. And then I felt like I could do more at one point. Like, I feel like I could do something else now. I've been walking every day. So I started doing yoga. And then eventually I worked my way back to going to the gym. But start small, do little things. What can you incorporate into your life that are easy? After dinner walks, great.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. And walking with a friend, and before you know it, you're doing that, you're engaging with someone else, and you don't feel like you're, working out or the stress if you don't like working out, for example,
Right.
or you're not used to it. You're just it's an excellent way to start. You're absolutely right about that. There's so many
and I consider any kind of movement,
right.
That could be playing with your kids in the backyard or dancing in the living room. We have dance parties every night. So move your body somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, good. That's absolutely. I try to do dance parties sometimes. They don't always work out, but but we move. So that's a good thing. Okay, and then you mentioned managing stress, which is a biggie.
A big one. This one's a tough one too. So they're calling stress the new cigarettes. Stress is killing us, and it is creating disease within us. But it's saying managing your stress is much easier said than done, right? Ways to manage our stress. The obvious one would be to get rid of your stress, but that's not always possible because that stress can be coming from your job or your family. But finding ways to be able to manage your stress is going to help with your overall health. Like I mentioned earlier, cortisol is our stress hormone. It makes us crave carbs and sugar. It also tells our body to store fat in our midsection. So that's why we see these beer bellies, these people with, huge guts, and it's all their fat's just right in the middle. That's cortisol, that's stress. It hinders a lot of our body's functions. It turns off a lot of our body's systems. When we are high stressed, it turns off our reproductive system. It turns off our immune system. So being under stress a lot is going to affect the rest of our body. So some ways that you can manage your stress, it could be exercise, that is stress relieving for some people. It could be walking, doing something that's repetitive, but it's repetitive as in you're not really thinking about it, like walking. That could also be great for people with stress. I love doing some kind of deep breathing. That is one of the easiest ways to get us out of stress. So when we are stressed, we are actually entering our fight or flight mode, which was handy when we were hunter-gatherers. But today's world, we don't really need it. And everything stresses us out. We're constantly in this state. The best and fastest way to get us out of this state is by doing slow, deep breaths. That will switch us to our parasympathetic state, which is our repair mode. So when we're stressed, we're in this fight or flight. We want to get into our rest and repair mode. So doing deep breathing, and you don't have to do it for very long. Studies show that just as little as 3 minutes of just doing some really slow, long, deep breaths can support mental health and get you out of that stress state. Other things you could do, I like to go outside and ground. I put my feet on the grass, in the dirt, touch my skin to the earth a little bit. I do it for like 5 minutes in the mornings. Yoga is a great way to also relieve stress. Any kind of way, maybe it's alone time. I found alone time for me. I need that sometimes as a mother. I think most mothers can agree.
Absolutely.
Give us a little bit of alone time.
Yeah.
Maybe a bath or something. Whatever way you can do to just calm the brain and release some of that stress is going to be helpful for your health.
Yeah, that all sounds good because there's just so much going on. It just seems like it's adding on and adding on. So, as you said, I can see that being considered the new cigarettes, and we need to make
Yes.
sure we address that, because we're looking at the whole body, the mind, the spirit, all those kinds of things. And definitely this is
And yeah, and
something we need
for
to
stress too,
take
it's
care
a
of
lot
right
of our
now.
minds.
Yeah.
So our body doesn't know the difference between perceived stress and actual stress.
Mm-hmm.
So worrying, I feel like a lot of people worry a lot.
Right.
You're stressing your body out unnecessarily, because you worrying that you might walk up onto a bear, or
Right.
you actually walking up onto a bear, our brain thinks
Right.
it's the same. We
Yeah.
walked up onto a bear, we need to go into fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, trying to be more positive mindset, that can also be a huge supporting factor for our health.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's there. Those are all good. And again, like I said, we'll all have a chance to hear all this again because the podcast will be out. But these are all such good tips. I'm just making notes because I think that they'll be wonderful to share with people who I know and all that. But so I want to ask you, as we begin to wrap up a little bit. So tell me, do you work with clients virtually? Tell me about how you do that.
I do. I can do virtual one-on-ones with
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
I through the company I work through, it is a free service
Mm-hmm.
for the customers that shop with our company. So they come in, they just schedule appointments, and I coach them or I help them shop. I also teach classes
Yeah.
around my community
Okay.
on different topics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I I one day want to just do my own, be out here coaching and teaching online.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah, I'd love to have you here. Our listeners, I don't think we mentioned earlier that you're in Oklahoma, but
Yeah.
but I'm like, okay, how can we talk to her here? How can we get her here? How can we? How can we
Yeah,
share
I
her
mean,
with
I
more
come to the
of us?
East Coast all the time. I still have
Oh,
friends and family out there.
oh, good. Well, maybe we'll be able to arrange something, because one of the things that we want to do with what we're setting up now is to have some events and activities so people can get together. It's not always something that's online or whatever.
Ooh, I love that.
Because we think community is really important, and with
Yes, it
phones
is.
and everything is we're getting wrinkles between our eyes because we're looking at Instagram all the time, and and those, so we want to bring people together periodically where we can. So
Yes,
I would love to, number one, connect with you when you come here. Number two, we'd love to have you back, if you don't mind, to tell us
of
more,
course.
because this is what you're telling us is such amazing, engaging, valuable information. And you tell it in a way that's very easy for people to get into, follow, understand, and still, like I said, you feel positive about yourself. You feel good. You don't feel like you're, being kind of that I can't do this. You give us a
Right.
starting point, and I
And
absolutely
I feel
love it.
like that's what's wrong with, all the health and stuff on social media. It's
Right.
like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, don't do that. And it's so confusing. We don't know what to do.
Yeah, yeah. But the way you present it, it's it's really something that I think almost anyone who wants to make a change can relate to, and I think that's terrific. Do you have anything else you want to ask?
I'm just
He's like, I am. I'm talking. He's writing. He's talking.
Yeah,
I'm writing.
but just one thought that I had just so stuck when you talked about the stress, and we talk about this at work, and I've become the old dude back in the corner that lobs out these grenades to people every now and then. And somebody was talking about something, and we went down the path of the fear of death is worse than death itself, and that is applied in so many areas where we stress so incredibly over the moment, and the moment almost never lives up to the stress.
Right.
And trying to understand that perspective and maintain that perspective can do so much to reduce the stress and anxiety. I've noticed, and especially now in our current climate and in our world, so many of us are so excited and just overflowing with anxiety about
Yes.
things that honestly are highly unlikely to happen in the way that we dreamt them. It is a thing, and it is a valid concern, but it is not quite what we've imagined, because we kind of all dream in color, and it's kind of like, whoa, I don't think that's going to happen quite like that. And so trying to tap down, and I work around and live around a lot of people who are very emotionally charged, energetic, brilliant people, and that brilliance fuels their imaginations and fuels their excitement, and thus the stress. So that is really, I think the nutrition that we talk about is really powerful, and it's science-based fact. But that nutrition piece that you're talking about right there is gaining ground, and it's gaining traction in terms of there is a scenario where I see where we will run into folks in the not too distant future that have nutrition perfect, stress jacked up, and it almost looks like a person that's nutritionally just void. And
right,
it doesn't have
exactly.
anything to do with nutrition. It's all about the stress. So that's
It's
incredibly
true.
powerful.
Okay, so so before we go, would you like to tell people how they can reach you if they have questions for you or want to, get your advice, talk to you virtually or whatever if they're not in Oklahoma? And
Yeah, I mean, they can follow me on Instagram. My personal one, which I use the most, is Raya the girl. It's Ryan without the N, so Raya the girl. And then I do have one that was for nutrition. After having a child, I haven't been doing it as much, but my goal is to get back on it. And that one is called Raya Eats.
Right. Good. Because I follow you on both, but I wanted everyone else to know as well. So anyway, but this has been just an amazing conversation. I want to thank you so much for taking time today and really giving us food for thought, if you will. But it's really been good, and we look forward to, again, like I said, having you here with us, having you again, if you don't mind, on the podcast. We'd love to have you come back.
Yes, I would love to. I love talking about nutrition, and we can get into more like specific topics.
Yes. So we can talk more about that. We were going to try to do gut health today, but I thought, this is going on for some time, and I thought we probably ought to wrap it up and give people something to look forward to. So we'll do that. So anyway, she's adorable. We love seeing her. She's a beautiful little girl.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, we're going to let you run. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. You're pretty
Yes,
incredible.
and let's keep in touch. Let's do this again.
Absolutely. All right. You have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Be blessed.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Officially Finna thanks you for joining us.
Please subscribe and hit that like button.